What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. We have something pretty big to get into today because it seems like Nintendo has kind of slipped out a Switch revision that seems to be blocking a lot of homebrew or hacking, pushing payloads, all that stuff that people were doing before with the RCM hack where you could put it into recovery and then do all kinds of stuff to the Switch. Seems to be blocked now, and we're going to go over all of that because it was a little surprising to a lot of people to see this just kind of happen and hit retail shelves kind of out of nowhere. And the weirdest thing is, it's not using that new chipset. They seem to have fixed it with what they were working with already. So that's very interesting. It's going to probably be a good bit of Newswave, so we're going to talk about all of that. First, though, let's go over some quick news. We did hear about Dead Cell's release date, and it's pretty much coming out on everything. When I say everything, I mean everything. It's coming to Linux and Mac even. So, yeah, it's going everywhere. It's leaving early access, and this is all happening August 7th. They put out a trailer and everything, and it is going to the Switch, obviously, as well as the PS4 and the Xbox One. It's selling for $24.99, but there is a pre-order discount going on currently that knocks it down to $19.99. We already talked about that physical release as well that's going to be offered in North America starting August 21st with that European date that's lined up for August 17th. And this is good to see. It's sooner than that physical release, so you'll have to hold off at least a little bit if you're getting that physical release that they showed, the Signature Edition that looked really cool. Dead Cells is good. I'll tell you that now. It's worth a look. It's kind of like a roguelike, Metroidvania style game, but it's a really, really good game. It's gotten so much better as they've had time to work on it in kind of early access, and now that it's leaving early access, it is ready for that. It's a good game. I would check it out August 7th. Also, we had our first look at Yooka-Laylee's 64-bit shader mode. Now, if you don't know, Yooka-Laylee, when it was funded through Kickstarter, or was crowdsourced and everything, one of the stretch goals that it did meet was a 64-bit mode, essentially. And this is going to be a shader mode that they put out that's essentially a reskin of the whole game, and it's supposed to kind of give that old school look to it like you're playing on the Nintendo 64. They showed a screenshot of it on their page, and honestly, it doesn't really look like a 64-bit or an N64 style game. It kind of looks like a GameCube or a PS2 game. I was looking at it and I said, that doesn't really look like something that has like a 64-bit look to it. I know it's going to be something they'll probably keep working with because they say it's a work in progress, but it doesn't really look like what I was expecting when I thought 64, but I was thinking, you know, like geometry and kind of, I guess, the look of it would be something you could almost count like the polygons on, or the edges were a little more rough and, you know, sharp edges and everything, but that's what they have right now. It doesn't look like what I was expecting, I guess. It looks, like I said, like a kind of a GameCube or a PS2 style game downgraded that way. I mean, that's kind of what they're trying to do, is essentially downgrade the visuals so it looks closer to 64-bit game, but it just doesn't feel like it when I see it. Also, Resident Evil 2 Remake, the one that we did see at E3 that I think stole the show. People were so excited for this game, especially fans of just Resident Evil in general, or if you were a long-running fan of the second one that showed up on the PS1 and the Nintendo 64, you probably got really, really excited for this. And guess what? If you're attending San Diego Comic-Con, it'll be playable there at Capcom's booth. Yeah, that sounded great, right? I was hoping it would be playable at some kind of event leading up to its January release, and it's happening at San Diego Comic-Con. We're going to get some good footage of this game. People are going to rush that booth and take footage of it. It's going to be really cool to see it in motion from just people just playing it. And they sent this out in a PR release that it will be playable at their booth. So if you're going to San Diego Comic-Con, absolutely stop by Capcom's booth, especially if you're interested in Resident Evil 2 Remake, because it will be playable. So get there, see how it feels and everything, put some impressions out, get some video. I'm really curious to see how this thing plays kind of in real time. So the Nintendo Switch hacking scene really took off when people discovered that there was a flaw at a hardware level inside the chipset that NVIDIA had provided to Nintendo, that Tegra X1 chipset, the T210. There was an issue to where you could put it in a recovery mode and then you could just start doing all kinds of stuff to it, right? The RCM mode. And it's really blossomed into this massive homebrew scene now that has surrounded the Switch. We know at this point there's probably 20 million Switch units out there that are vulnerable in some way to this hack. And it's really taken off. Seriously, people are doing so much stuff to it. But of course, companies, as we're seeing with Team Executor, is even selling kind of the hack and mod and everything. And that seems to have been rubbing some people the wrong way. And if you're Nintendo, it's pretty much your obligation to fix this, and it seems like they have done just that, as people over on GBA Temp started discovering that some systems that they have purchased recently in places like, I guess China, because they import some of their stuff, and then Japan, don't work anymore. You can get into RCM mode, that's not an issue, but it won't accept the payload anymore like other Switches will. And after some more research, it seems that yes, they have changed some stuff internally to kind of block this. If we've talked about Sires over on Twitter, they even put out a tweet saying, "Bad news, reports of new Switches in the wild not being vulnerable to FG. Probably updated eye patches. Good news, they're coming with 4.1.0 for now, which is vulnerable to deja vu. Friendly reminder, if you want a hacked Switch, don't update. The lower the better." This is still very true. Now you see eye patches are mentioned there. Those are the things that seem to be kind of blocking this, and this was done obviously by Nintendo and Nvidia when they have updated the hardware. And eye patches are, if you remember kind of those e-fuses that we heard about that would have specific bits of code to kind of block these malicious, I guess you'd say, attacks on the system that allow it to be hacked. And we've even heard that these fuses will blow and just damage the system in general. That seems to be what's happened here. Now, we heard that Fail Overflow pretty much reported this, well, or like late last year or something, and honestly, where people are kind of matching these up for where they were in manufacturing, it does seem like Nintendo and Nvidia probably fixed this stuff up at the beginning or earlier this year, and they're just now seeing their way to retail. So, of course, it takes time for everything to cycle through, and that's kind of where we are now. It seems like the systems that are currently out, if you go and try to buy them, they will not accept the payload. You won't be able to hack them. Now, apparently these are specifically in Japan and China. China generally tends to have their stuff imported from Japan. The shops there do. So more than likely what we're seeing here isn't anywhere else yet, but it will get there. That's the thing. And they've even done things like identify certain model numbers. Someone actually posted a YouTube video of it not working for their model 2018 HACS JXEC3. And they showed the entire process of them trying to mod it and hack it and errors and stuff that it kicked back. So here we are now. The Switch, apparently, at least the ones that are being cycled in now, are not susceptible to the typical RCM push payload, and you have a modded and hacked Switch to do whatever you want with. So now what happens here? Well, I will say, right now, the firmware that's being shipped with them is 4.1.0, as we saw Sire say. That technically is still vulnerable to deja vu, which is another tool, another method that's out there right now, but it's not susceptible on a hardware level. And the interesting thing here is, whenever they start shipping with 5.0, because that's where they cleaned it up and then deja vu does not work anymore, then we'll have a Switch that seems pretty secure. But what's interesting here is, a lot of people started noticing this doesn't appear to be that Mariko revision that we talked about before, where it seemed like they added a lot of stuff in and supported like 8 gigabytes of RAM and everything, and we all pretty much assumed that was there to kind of patch and fix the security issue, but it's not being used here. And the way we know that is, one with that Mariko update would have shipped with 5.0.0, because that's where they enabled all of this. It wouldn't ship with 4.1.0, and many people are even saying it does not appear to be that revised chip. So now we all kind of sit and wonder, well, what's that revised T214 actually doing? Because originally we thought the purpose was to stop these hackers, but it seems that it's for something else, maybe. Maybe there is a revised chip that these people have found, the data miners have found, that is for something else. Maybe it is for extra RAM, maybe it is a more powerful chipset, or maybe it is just a revised chip that saves on manufacturing, or maybe it has this stuff built in already. I don't know, but it's weird that they managed to fix it without using that revised chipset. And it looks like we'll maybe see that chipset down the road at some point. It's very interesting to think about. But no, right now, if you need a Switch that's hackable that you can mod, you might want to go out and get one soon. And you might want to double check to make sure it's a 2017 model, because soon enough, you won't be able to get one that is able to be hacked. And maybe we'll see what this whole Mariko revised Switch is about, because right now, it doesn't seem like Nintendo needed that to fix this issue. Next up, let's talk about Inside Xbox. We did have, I believe it was episode 5 air yesterday, and I gotta be honest, I watched it. It wasn't a big episode. Not a lot of stuff was announced or happened. It wasn't like a big wowing, episode. It was okay. There were some cool announcements, I will say that. For example, Game Pass, which is now over 180 games, by the way, it's a good value, now has Rocket League. So that was a cool addition. To see Rocket League get added was pretty cool. But they also added another game that's actually out today. This is a game that's coming out on release, and it's going to launch on Game Pass, and it's not a Microsoft game. This is Warhammer Vermintide 2. Now, it is already out on Steam, and now it's coming to the Xbox, and it's part of Game Pass day one. Now, it's a $30 game on Steam, so it wasn't like a full-priced game or anything right away, but to have them get a game, obviously, that's day one and be added to Game Pass is, I think, a pretty big deal. I think it's really cool to kind of see that happen. They also showed a Sport White Special Edition Xbox One controller because Microsoft does have a lot of controllers and they keep adding to it. I do like the look of it, though. It's this really nice, it's just a really, really clean, white looking controller. It looks really good. And for people who do collect Xbox One controllers, I know there's a lot of people who do that. It's just another one to pick up, which, sure, there you go. We also had a closer look at No Man's Sky. I don't know how many people really cared as much about that. We Happy Few did get a story mode, which is cool again. All right. Earthfall was shown, and then they showed more of seasons changing in Forza Horizon 4. Sounds like they're going to continue to hype up Forza Horizon 4 going forward, as they should. That's right now, at least, their big first-party holiday release, and it's going to be part of Game Pass day one as well. Game Pass is getting pretty strong right now. Rocket League, I think, is pretty cool to have there, and honestly, even something like Warhammer Vermintide 2 is something most of us probably wouldn't check out, but the fact that it's on Game Pass makes myself, and I'm sure many others, go, oh yeah, maybe I will download that. That's actually interesting enough to just, download and try. So I like Game Pass a lot, having new additions. This was not the best episode of Inside Xbox. There just wasn't a lot going on, no massive announcements. I think backwards compatibility that kind of just showed up throughout the day was like Overlord 1 and 2, but it wasn't any big announcement. Not like how they did that with the original Xbox, where they had 12 games getting announced for backwards compatibility. This was just a very, very mild episode, but maybe next month we'll get a bigger episode or something. We'll see. I do like they do these every month, and I feel like because they do them every month, not everyone is going to be packed with a crazy amount of content or anything, wow or crazy. So we'll see what happens next month, but this was just a solid Inside Xbox. And our last bit of news, let's talk about Readout on the Nintendo Switch. Now, if you don't know, Readout was, I guess, announced last year at some point, and people have been waiting for a while now for it to show up on the Switch, and it really hasn't yet. It's just been kind of quiet, and it was on Amazon for pre-order and everything. People were ordering it. That's great. But then people started noticing that some of these pre-orders were getting canceled. Amazon was removing listings, and that got a little worrying, especially with other games like Steep, which have all but disappeared. There was always that thought that maybe they couldn't get it working, or maybe there's some issue in the background and it wasn't going to happen. So yes, Readout was kind of, a lot of people were really worried about this. Well, 34 Big Things did take to Twitter to try to smooth out some of these issues or worries, saying, following a series of questions about the status of Readout development on Nintendo Switch, we can confirm it's still coming on the platform, and we are very close to announce something amazing about it. Stay tuned. So no release date yet. They're not ready to do that. Now, of course, Team Cherry was doing that a lot for Hollow Knight, and then eventually it just dropped, as soon as they were ready to announce it, it dropped that day at E3. So that was a really cool one for them. I don't know if Readout's going to do something like that. They'll probably give us a release date maybe a week prior, maybe a month prior, but I don't think it's be anything like what we saw with Hollow Knight. It'd be a fun surprise, obviously, but there are physical copies, I believe, of that out there that people might want to get ordered in, and Amazon will probably want to put up a release date prior as well for the pre-order stuff, so we'll see. But at least we know. At least we know it's not getting canceled or anything like that. They just seem to still be working on it, and we'll just have to keep an eye out for, I guess, an announcement, a release date, more information, hopefully soon. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for Newswave today. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button. Really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave a bunch of comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it is Nintendo's revision, quiet revision, where they seem to have added or changed or updated eye patches and made the fuses work to kind of battle against the hackers in the Nintendo Switch hacking scene. What do you think about them quietly doing that, seemingly with the same chipset on a firmware below what Mariko would be using at 5.0? And in that case, what do you think this T214 Mariko chipset is actually for? Because it doesn't seem to be needed to fix, I guess, the issues that they were running into with the hacking scene. I'm very curious, and this was a bit of a surprise out of left field. to see this start to show up in the wild on 4.1.0 Switch units. It's very interesting. Let me know what you guys think about that down below. What about Readout or Yooka-Laylee's 64-bit mode that doesn't really look like 64? Let me know what it actually looks like to you guys down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.